Welcome to Couples Becoming Intentional. I'm Carrie.
I am John.
And here at Couples Becoming Intentional, we want to equip you with different tools and resources so that you can live intentional lives with those that you love to leave a legacy that lasts. Welcome to Couples Becoming Intentional, where we believe just one of the ways that you can become intentional in your relationships is with questions that spark curiosity. So today we're doing things a little bit different. We are just going to be talking about one of the ways that we have actually found to be intentional in our relationship, and that is through taking trips, just the two of us.
Well, trips in general. We just like the experience of trips.
Yes. And we'll talk more about like all of our trips and all that kind of stuff. But I really want us to hone in on like the importance that we have found of taking trips, just you and I. There might be people that we meet along the way or go visit at trips, but like just traveling, you and I, without children, because that's a whole different ball game, and the impact that has really had for us. So we've been married going on almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in August. And we've been pretty intentional to have at least some sort of trip where we have gotten away. Sometimes that's like staying with other people. Sometimes that's going on a trip with another couple. But can you speak into like what has been your favorite trip? I use trip loosely, but what has been your favorite thing that we've done as just the two of us?
You'd think as the person who came up with that question, I would have a better answer.
I'm surprised you can't answer this right off the bat.
I really enjoyed Seattle, but then I'm like, remembering back to like, right, like we had our honeymoon. We went to Mexico. That was fun, going to Mexico.
Atlanta for a wedding.
Atlanta.
That was super fun. Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
San Diego. Like we've had a lot of different trips.
Right. And so like for like a couple trip that was solely for the purpose of reconnecting to get to like do stuff together. We've done 2 of those.
Well, 3
Seattle.
if you include our honeymoon.
Okay. Honeymoon, Seattle, and Phoenix.
Yep.
So out of those 3, I would say Seattle was my favorite.
And rightfully so, because he chose the location.
I did. And I love coffee.
And Seattle culture.
Seattle is fun. It's very walkable. So that was really nice.
That was.
And then you get to see a new city and realize that all cities in America are pretty much the same.
Pretty much.
It reminded me a lot of like Pittsburgh. Dirty.
We didn't go to Pittsburgh. We went to Philadelphia.
I'm sure it's the same. It's dirty, gross, grungy.
I mean, it's like Vegas.
Yeah. Well, we've gone to Vegas too.
Yeah.
What was your favorite couple trip?
Okay, so I'm going to break this down to 2 different categories. Of course, because there has to be a category. I can't just give one. There has to be based on circumstances. So if we're talking about a trip that was just you and I with the intent of reconnecting, this last one that we went on, Phoenix, is because I picked the location.
And what else was like your favorite about that?
The warm weather.
The warm weather. Yeah.
The Mexican food. I got my sopapillas.
The food in general was really good.
The food in general was actually like pretty good. It was so great. And just like we had no agenda. And I think that's one of the things that I absolutely loved was no agenda, no falling to nap schedules and all that kind of stuff.
And you like to schedule your life out.
I do.
You have every minute of your next couple weeks planned out.
Yeah.
Where when we're on vacation, John gets to do the schedule, and that means
nothing.
Ambiguity. Let's go with the flow.
Yes.
I'm getting hungry. Let's go find something to eat.
Yes. And that's good for me, especially when rest doesn't come naturally or it's not my bend typically. So that's why I do really enjoy vacations. Like
it's a forced rest.
Right. It is a forced rest. And guys, I read a whole book in 1 month. Okay. So I started it on the trip and I just finished it.
Well, you finished half of it on the trip.
Right. Exactly. Like, remember we talked about I'm working on my reading habit. So, okay, let me go back to my other vacation that I really liked, the two of us, was San Diego. We went to San Diego at the beginning of 2019 for a Mary Kay Leadership Conference. And the main reason why I loved it so much is, and this is just the nostalgia part of me, is one of my favorite trips I ever took as a family was we did San Diego and Disneyland in the same trip. And I got to show you all these places that like I went to and like share all the stories of all the different places. And that trip was so great. We shared an Airbnb with another couple downtown and 2 bedrooms. So we never had to see them, which was great. But like good people, like our Mary Kay friends and just good culture and all that kind of stuff. And that was like work related trip essentially. But like the warmth, we went in January and it was warm. We went to the beach. We rented a car. We saw the seals. Like it was all the things. And it was just this, I loved it so much. There was no rest. Not really anyway.
No. But it was a trip that you enjoyed. Like,
yes.
We only had Finn at the time. So that was like.
Right. Finn stayed home. That was like our first long trip.
Yeah. And
being without kids and bringing my pump and that being a whole ordeal.
Yeah. And yeah, back then, like we hadn't really taken on a practice of like Sabbath rest. So we didn't know that like, oh, like trips should be relaxing, and guaranteed it was a work trip, quote unquote work trip. So like you had to go to like seminars, you had to go to
different things.
Yeah. And so like it was a trip, but it wasn't too relaxing because you had a schedule.
Correct. Yes, exactly. So now I think we are becoming a lot more intentional with once a year, we plan a trip to someplace new, someplace we've never been before, either of us. And it's like we get to live out this, like we get to adventure and we get to explore and we also get to do nothing and
eat good food.
Yes. Really like live out the Sabbath just for an extended amount of time. Like do things that bring us joy. And that's both sitting in the hotel room, eating Cheesecake Factory, watching The Office reruns, because that's all they have on Comedy Central on Saturdays.
Yeah. Or trying to find Friends and then finding it the last day.
Friends?
Friends.
Oh, Friends, the TV show. I was like, I don't think we tried to make Friends on this trip.
No, the show.
That'd be kind of hard. That makes sense. The show. I fell asleep.
Yes.
Where can we go back to the beginning? I'm even curious of like what even sparked the desire for us to take a trip like back in Seattle. So Seattle was truly like our first one that we committed to. We're going to take a couple trip, just you and I.
What's the purpose behind
trips? Well, that and like how did this conversation even come up?
I think well, it's just trying to be more intentional of just trying to like, I mean, you realize like, okay, when people get married, what's the first thing they do together? They
go on a honeymoon. Is that what?
Yes.
What is their first trip? You mean?
They go on a honeymoon. I'm talking generalities, Carrie. Okay. But like that's just one way we connect, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then like that's the whole point of reconnecting. But like also you do things together, like you plan out things like so like we had friends of ours who went to Hawaii, like, and they. Natalie and Byron, they have their own podcast. Go listen to it. It's
Couples
golden.
Co-op.
Yes. Anyways, they went to Hawaii and they like did things they would never do in their lifetime.
Yep.
They went like snorkeling with turtles, or dolphins, and they went.
I don't know what else they did, to be perfectly honest.
Well, it
was warm. That's all I cared about.
It was warm. Yeah, and they did like things on the island.
Yes.
I think they saw like a like one of the dances, what's the dance called there?
Hawaiian dances, hula dancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like that is a unique experience, and they got to do it together, freshly married, and that's the purpose of like we want reoccurring moments of new experiences that we can grow together, figuring out like what we do enjoy, and like yes, Carrie and I got married young, and like we didn't have our preferences or likes and dislikes quite yet established, but the beauty of getting married young is that like you get to grow together, you get to figure out things together.
Yes.
Where like if you're older, you get married, you already have established, well, I tried that once, I don't like it, so you can do it by yourself, which is like okay, you have a hobby now, but like if you can do something together, you can just always be intentional about the marriage. And so like that's the point of the purpose behind yearly couple trips is that we want to reconnect. We want to grow together. We want to be intentional. Like that's one of our roots. Rest, obviously, because parenting, you always have a low level fatigue. I feel.
Well, you do.
Well, yes. That's just me in general. And so like, yeah, I come back from these trips and I feel energized. I feel prepared to really pour into my kids again because like I took the time for the relationship that's most important in our family.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not pouring into Carrie and Carrie's not pouring into me, I'm only giving 50% to my kids. And that's not fair to them and that's not fair to me. Like
I think the other thing with like kind of us picking new locations to kind of spice it up a little bit is I think so often we see marriages where like the roommate syndrome just becomes so much more of a thing of like, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. You're going to keep doing your thing. We're in a good jive. Like the kids are in school or the kids are doing this. And like by the end of the night, you're like, I'm tired. Like I'm worn out. I'm going to veg out or I'm going to disconnect by going on TikTok. Like we all know that, like,
or watching TV,
binging Netflix or like whatever it is. And you've just like you've poured so much out or you've just become on autopilot. And there is that lack of connection or spice or whatever it is that we have really seen that we take a trip once a year. I will preface with this. We take a trip flying out of state once a year. And then in the fall, I do like for us to get away to a cabin that we have friends of ours that own and just like use fall of just because it's beautiful up where they live, just for the two of us, even if it's just like a quick overnight or just like a day and a half type of thing. I do like to do things like that. And we do have the resources for our parents to take our, for my parents to take our kids overnight. So like, we're not saying that like you need to like spend a buttload of money to fly to a new exotic place,
right?
To be intentional. We're talking about what would it look like to set aside 24 hours away from kids, away from responsibilities, and just really reconnect with your spouse.
Yeah. And it's like, there's this thing of like, if you really want to grow in your relationship, or if you're married, you should like follow the 2-2-2 rule, right? Like every 2 weeks you go on a date, every 2 months you take a day away, every 2 years you go on an extended trip. On an extended trip. And then the reality is like, not all of us have the financial means to go on a date every 2 weeks or to go overnight somewhere for 2 months. And so like, it's trying to be intentional while on a budget.
Right.
And so like we value like experiences over things or material items. And so like, yeah, like our kids might get fewer presents on their birthdays or on Christmas. And they do. And like, but we take them to Disneyland. Like,
yeah.
And we take them to Disneyland because like we want them to remember this for a while. Like Finn is never going to forget like going to Disneyland.
He will not.
And
I don't even think Penny will.
Yeah.
I mean, you can come at me with like, she's 2, she won't remember, but trust
she
me.
was only 1.5 when we went.
Well, she
One-ish.
almost turned 2. I will say though, like our kids, and if you're a parent, you know this, like our kids forget about their toys the moment. They would care on Christmas if they got a box. Like it's the weirdest thing. But for us, investing in the experiences, investing into, and that's like for our kids, but also for us of like, when I look back on my life, again, we talk about leaving a legacy often here. I want to say like, I just explored. I didn't want to leave saying I had the nicest car and the most beautiful home in the world, which I do want a beautiful home and I do want cars that get me to and fro. To and fro. I do want to have experiences with the people I love most, and setting aside money, which we do to make that a reality. It's one of the things that we do to make sure that we stay having fun. We stay connected to one another. And I will say, when you go to some place that neither of us have been, you're prone to get lost.
Do you want to tell that story?
I really don't.
Please
but
do.
I felt like it was only necessary.
Please do.
Because this is part of the adventure.
Well, right. And I mean, like, part of the going to somewhere new and thinking
Yes.
you can go without GPS.
Oh my gosh. Always just pull up Google Maps and plug in locations, because I thought I could get us from a shopping mall back to our hotel, because we've done it before.
It was 5 minutes away.
Oh yeah. I was like, this is a piece of cake. You just hop on the highway and get off at the next 2 exits. Nope. I drove 20 miles in the wrong direction. Yeah.
We went east rather than west.
Yeah. It was a hot mess. We were heading towards Tucson instead of 2 miles down to Phoenix. So
Yep.
it was a mess. I was learning, but like, that's what you get to do. Like, you get to have this funny experience that we look back on. We know that Carrie always needs a GPS for the rest of forever, but you get to have that. And I am not saying that like you need to spend all this money to go on these elaborate vacations, but maybe there's a place in your town or the next town over that is a place that you've never been. You as a couple, like, how could you make that into a date day? How can you barter with somebody to watch your kids, and you'll watch their kids the next time so they can go on a date night?
We've done that.
Oh, we've totally done that before. And it was such a blessing to us to be able to, like, granted, they had 4 kids. So that was a whole different ballgame. So like 6 kids altogether was a little much. And
It was fun though.
it was so much fun. And they got to have a beautiful date night. We got to have a date night in return. And it was like, wow, I didn't have to pay for childcare.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so awesome. And that, like, I'm excited for our next one. Have you decided? So I will say this, when we travel by airplane, we take turns picking the location. So I picked Phoenix, John picked Seattle. John, where are we going in 2023? Where are you wanting to go?
I think we're going to go to Portland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There were a few different options we were throwing around: Denver,
Yeah.
Maine, or Portland.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I'm like, I want to see something more New England,
Yes.
north.
Yep, we've never been over in
east
that area before.
area. And then I'm like, well, I mean, Denver, Colorado sounds fun.
Never
as
been
well.
there. Mhm.
So,
But Portland.
yes, Portland,
Mm-hmm.
because they have coffee there.
Oh my gosh. Everything revolves around coffee for this guy.
I like coffee.
The other way that we choose to be very intentional with just like the relationships in general in our life is by taking family trips. Now, let me preface with, my family grew up, my mom's side of the family always grew up. So we're talking like 50 years ago, grew up going to the beach every single year in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, every year. That's what they did. That was their one family vacation. And when we were kids, that tradition continued. So I have been on a plane every single year of my life. I know that is not a reality for everybody. And it's because for my family, and this obviously blends to like the importance for us, is like experience over things. My parents did not have the nicest house we could have, but we didn't. We chose to spend our money on experiences. And I'm so grateful for that. So with that, we take our kids on trips. Believe it or not, my kids have been on trips multiple times.
We've traveled with babies.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like, because they flew for free. So I was like, I'll figure it out. So, I mean, 6-week-old Finn going on a trip, Finn and Penny. So Penny, through a pandemic, was traveling with me. She's gone to Vegas, I think 3 times, and like has been in a plane at least 2 to 3 times a year. And she's 2 years old. I think she's been probably 6 times on an airplane. And Finn has been on it plenty of times. Because we choose to do experiences. So John, what has been your favorite family trip that we've taken, the 4 of us, or the 3 if Penny wasn't born yet?
Honestly, I don't know, this might surprise you.
Okay.
Disneyland.
That does not surprise me.
It was so much fun.
I seriously
think
am
it was
ready to
a
do it
good-
again.
It was a blend of like what we both enjoy.
Yeah.
Where like, because we were there for,
We flew out on a Monday, came back on a Friday.
and yeah, so like 4 good days
Yes.
of being there. And like we did Disneyland one day.
Yep.
The next day we did
Do you remember what it's called?
California Adventure,
Yes.
which California Adventure, I don't know why people don't like it.
Oh
I
my gosh,
loved
it is fantastic.
You get Avengers Campus, you
Yes.
get Star Wars Land.
No, that's at Disneyland.
Is that at Disneyland?
Yeah.
Anyways, it's all a blur of how, what this
Everything
breakdown.
blends together.
Right. And so I just really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And to see like the awe, the enjoyment in Finn and Penny's eyes. Granted, like some experiences, like they were frightened, which I didn't expect, because like Finn went on Jungle Cruise when he was younger, and he enjoyed it. And then this time we took both of them, and they were both just like
terrified.
They're shaking, and they're like,
yes.
And so like,
and now they love it.
Well, they like seeing the photos on the Google, and they go, Jungle Cruise.
Yes, it's super cute.
And so so Penny was on Jungle Cruise. She was like
huddled into
my sister Libby. Which, do they have their own podcast?
They do.
They have their own podcast.
Their own podcast. Yeah, we'll link to that in the show notes.
Both Byron and Natalie's and Libby and Luke's.
Yeah.
So we got to go with my sister and her husband, Libby and Luke, and it was just a great time to reconnect with them, because they're all over the.
Yeah, they own a bus. They're wedding photographers, so it was so fun that we were actually able to catch them in Anaheim. Yeah,
so they were there for doing a photo shoot.
No, they're traveling.
They
were traveling during their off season.
They're visiting cousins. Yeah, some of cousins of ours, and they happened to be in California when we were in there. So we're like, let's all go, and it was a blast. Really get to reconnect with them, but then also have a new experience with them. They got to be with niece and nephew.
It was beautiful. I'm curious, when I think of, so we've done Disney World. We did that August of 2021, and then we did Disneyland March of 2022. I know, so close. I loved it. When you say that Disneyland was like a perfect blend of like adventure, activity, and rest, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because that is not how I would have expected your answer to be.
Because we have younger kids, for them to be the best selves, their best selves throughout the day.
Yes.
They need to take a nap.
Oh my gosh.
Plain and simple. True. And so
I took a nap.
So 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
We'd go out 9.
Way early in the morning, because
at our leisure. Well, right, because it was 2 hours
behind. So great.
So we would get there 8, 9, eat breakfast at the hotel.
Yep.
Walk over, or take the shuttle over. Stay until noon. Go back. They would take naps. They both napped because they were exhausted.
Disney tired. If you do not believe me, just Google Disney tired, because it is legit.
And so they would sleep, and then we would go back from 3 to closing.
Yeah.
And we would stay there, and then we'd come home. They would crash. Carrie would crash. I would stay up another couple hours, and I'd read or whatnot, TikTok. So we were able to have some good rest, and we were there for 4 days, and we did Disneyland and Adventure one day, and then we did California Adventure one day. So the other 2 days we were at the hotel, or we would
just go venture around. We went back to downtown Disney one day, and just
for an hour.
Yeah, walked around, and then we came back and took naps, and then we just leisurely got up. There was no race or pressure. It was really a true rest day, which, again, if you know Disney stuff, you need to add in a rest day.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is a lot of walking. Can you tell them how many steps you had on day 1 of Disneyland? I will say we walked home from our hotel, and normally we would have taken the bus, but
so day 1, or
oh my gosh, about the not your Fitbit.
I'm telling the story. So when we were flying out in Milwaukee, my band on my Samsung watch broke.
It was
where it connected, the band connected to the the face, and so I'm pointing at it as if you can see it. So where it connects, it broke. So I could tape it, but I didn't want to.
Right.
So I ordered it 1 day shipping to go to a Dropbox.
Yes.
In California, because Amazon is a wonderful thing. You can deliver things even if you're not at home.
Yeah.
And you can get it the next day.
Right.
So I did it in the airplane to have it for the next day. When the next day we're going to
Disneyland.
It said, okay, your thing is delivered. And so I didn't get it until the afternoon during nap time, because that's when I was able to get it, or Libby and Luke got it for us. But they so they dropped it off. I put it on. And so just the second half of the day, I had 24,000, something like that.
24,000 steps.
And we decided, we also walked home that day.
That is
because we didn't want to wait for the bus.
Which, That's okay. We learned.
And
We should have just waited for the bus.
I found it fun. Like the kids.
Oh,
got
they
there,
loved it.
Looking around, I was perfectly fine walking.
My feet killed.
Well, you should, use more function.
Are you saying I should invest in some higher quality shoes?
No.
Darn. Okay, that was close.
You should wear better shoes. What? I don't even know.
I don't have better shoes to wear, so it sounds like I need to invest.
I wore my Toms, and those were like.
Oh wow.
And like they were brand new because I just got them, and I still felt fine. So
okay, well maybe I do need to invest in some nicer shoes.
Yes.
You heard it here, folks.
No.
Okay,
Carrie, it's not all about material items.
I know, but happy feet, happy life.
No.
I can't
happy
truly,
heart.
Hold on.
Happy heart,
I got
happy
this.
life. Like
I can't.
If our heart is in line with Jesus, come on. We're not preaching a second gospel
No, we're
here.
not. We're not. I'm saying for me to truly love experiences, I will have happy feet. Yes.
If you want to believe that.
Okay.
Sure.
Anyway.
Or we can just keep taking the shuttle and you can wear those cute shoes.
I will wear the cute shoes.
So what is your favorite family trip?
Okay. So you guys, I was going to say Disneyland because I loved it so much, but I'm actually going to turn this around and say when we went to Anna Maria Island, I'm going to preface with John wasn't there the first half of the trip. So it was with my family. But I will say the best part was that on that Wednesday, so we were in Anna Maria, and if you don't know where that is in Florida, it's on the north, south, east, west side of
Never eat
Florida.
sour wheat.
Soggy waffles. Who eats sour wheat? Nobody, because you never eat.
Never eat it. Or soggy worms. Or
let me finish.
Stringy Whataburgers.
Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway.
Whatever you want.
Anna Maria Island's like probably about an hour and a half away from Tampa. So there you guys go. Me and the kids picked up John from the Tampa Bay airport on my birthday. So it was a Wednesday. And then we drove to Orlando to do Disney World for a day with the kids. And this is, I think, what doing a trip like this Disney World one really was like, we can do Disneyland, just us kids, or like just the four of us. Because any other time that we have traveled with our kids, my parents are with us. Or we're traveling for a family trip. Or John's not with us and it's me, my mom, my sister, and a child, and we're visiting family. Like this Disneyland was the first trip that it was actually just the four of us traveling somewhere, and we did it, and it was a blast, and it was a nightmare in the airplane, but like we're still gonna keep doing it. But
I felt like it was a lot easier for Disneyland when I was there, going out and going back.
Were you asleep?
Going there, it was a breeze.
Going there was not a breeze.
I got to read, so obviously
okay, so
they
now,
had enough entertainment.
Now, yeah, you now understand who took care of the kids on that flight. If John got to read.
Well, it's also because I sat next to Finn, which it
was Penny. Penny
Yeah.
was the issue, which made sense. She wanted her own seat, and we were pushing the 2 mark. So anyway, okay, back to Orlando. We drove to Orlando, which was in the car was another like hour and a half from Tampa. And we stayed off property. We rented a stroller. Oh, that was so beautiful. And we just did Magic Kingdom for one day. And I tell John, that was one of my like, God is so good moments, because I had been envisioning that moment for years. The first time I went to Disney World, I said, I can't wait to take my kids here one day. And it like came true, and it was beautiful. And it was just us. And
Did you have chills?
Oh my gosh, John, I would have cried. But then the next day, so we were there, we came in on a Wednesday night, we went to the pool, it downpoured rain. That was dumb. And then we went to downtown
Florida.
Disney. Well, right. Went to downtown Disney, had a blast. It was my birthday. We got way too overpriced drinks. We were just talking about that yesterday. And
Yes.
$60. It was ridiculous. Anyway, had a super great time. Then had Disney World the next day. And when I come, Disney for us is like, we're just going with the flow. We don't have much planned. We'll say like, we want to make sure we ride these couple rides, but then we're just kind of go with the flow. And then the next day we had, and again, if you're a Disney person, you're going to know exactly what I mean. We had, it was our anniversary, and we had breakfast reservations at Topolino's Terrace, which is probably the best breakfast we have ever had.
And the most expensive.
The most expensive breakfast, pushing like $300. and it was a character experience for our kids. Penny hated it, which we'll do that again one day because it is such good food. And Finn loved it, and it was COVID, like still COVID stuff. So like the characters couldn't come close to you, which was a blessing because of Penny. But like, and then we went back and we got to spend 2 more days at the beach, like with the rest of my family. And, just the 4 of us being able to spend time together was such a beautiful thing that made me realize like, okay, we want to be able to incorporate this more. We want to be able to do this more, just trips, just the 4 of us. And we're in a season right now where we're not like planning any trips. We don't have any trips upcoming. They're just the 4 of us, which is totally fine. We are doing Disney World again in
February. You heard
February.
it here. It is totally fine, Carrie, that we don't have a trip planned.
I know. It is. I said that confidently. We do have a trip planned with my family for Disney World in February. My mom, my sister, and I are running the Disney World half marathon, and we're planning and we're budgeting a time for the 4 of us to do Animal Kingdom. And the kids are so excited about it. They're excited to do Dinosaur Dumbo is what we're calling it. And it's a ride that's like Dumbo, but it's dinosaurs. And that'll be great. Just the 4 of us. It's like that mini little break in the midst of a family vacation where there's 8 of us, if not more, because we know probably more family will join us. And then it's just the family friends of ours, will join us. And it's just a way for the 4 of us to really get to like, just be able to break off and do our own little thing. So that's probably my favorite trip. I'm excited for us. In 10 years, we're talking about doing Disneyland Paris and saving up for that right now, which is like mind-boggling to us that we're saving for something 10 years down the road.
Well, if you want it to become a reality.
Right.
And it costs a lot more.
It does. I will say though, when I looked up Disney packages, I've told you this, looked up Disney packages for Disneyland Paris versus Disney World. Disneyland Paris is less expensive.
Well,
you just have to get there.
Yeah, it's the plane ticket. And they realize that like people that go to Disneyland Paris are not Europeans. It's the Americans traveling too. When
I go to the Disneyland Paris website, before you even get to the website, they ask you what country. And I was like, oh yeah, Disney World doesn't do that. They assume that everyone's like speaks English and knows what they're doing. But like, no, you have to pick what country you want this page to be translated into. Because I mean, obviously you can travel easier in Europe. But we'll be going for the 40th anniversary because right now they're celebrating the 30th. And I'm like, oh my gosh, an anniversary time at Disney would be so great. So our kids love it. Our kids absolutely love being able to go on experiences. Now, are we biased because we do it for them? Probably. But honestly, that's what I want to gift our kids with, is just like the ability to go on different trips like this, learn different things, learn different cultures, and be able to travel on their own. I remember when my sister and I were growing up, my parents, literally we were in the O'Hare airport and my mom said, okay, get us to the next gate. We're at gate B, whatever, get us to the next gate. And my sister and I had to navigate ourselves to the O'Hare airport by ourselves. Our parents were behind us, so they knew what we were doing.
That's what you think. They actually just went off and
no, they didn't.
Got lunch.
No, they didn't, because then they would have to find us. Well, that would be hard. But like they gave us the freedom and the ability and like empowered us to figure it out ourselves. And it was so great. And I'm excited to continue to do that with our kids. And again, this is something that is a priority for us. Like I really want to stress that this is something that is a priority for us. So we set aside money to make this a reality. And whatever your priority is that you want to either have as a couple, have as a family, put aside the time, mark it on the calendar, put aside the resources, and just make it happen. Stop being the people that are oh, one day that would be great. Or we haven't gone on a honeymoon in 10 years. And it's like, or like, we haven't gone on a trip since our honeymoon. And it's like, oh my gosh, like make it happen. Just, I know that's like easier said than done. I get that.
Well, I think it's also like people like, well, I don't know where this money is coming from. I don't know what like that would actually look like. Oh, I need to go on a like budget.
Budget?
It's like, it's trying to figure out like, yeah, you may not have the money or the resources that do it. Like my fondest memories though were the times that I went on trips with my parents and my sister. Mm-hmm. And like I did not grow up like rich. Like we had different upbringings. I had a one family, like one parent income, a teacher's income at that. And like we still did things.
And you're one of 4 kids.
One of 4. Mm-hmm. And so once my older brothers were out of the house, I remember like we did, when I was going into 8th grade and going into 10th grade, we did, I think it's either 8th and 10th or 9th and 11th. Anyways, we did like a missions trip to France. And like that is some of my fondest memories of growing up, is like these times that we like, so the first time we went, like we got to go see family in England, and we were in France for a couple weeks, and then we were in Italy for a week. And like I will remember that till the day I die. Like that is just like, experiences like shape who you are. Like that is like, and so like I can have a better appreciation for other cultures than America, and like I can be, yeah, like that just like was because of my experiences, like that is shaped who I am, of like wanting to provide that for my family, of like there's more than just Kakana, Wisconsin.
Yes, that is very true. And giving them that broader scope, and then us setting the example of us pouring into it as well. So we'd love to hear from you. Where are you planning your next trip that is intentional? Send me a DM at Carrie Vaco. I'd love to be able to continue the conversation with you, and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to another episode of Couples Becoming Intentional. As always, if you have a question that you would like us to answer here on the podcast, you can go ahead and send us an email at jcvhouse@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM over on Instagram at Carrie Vaco. We'd love to be able to answer and feature you on here on the podcast. And as always, if there is somebody in your life who would benefit from this episode, feel free to go ahead and send them the link. And if you love this content, we'd love to be able to hear from you. So go ahead and leave us a review over on Apple Podcast.
Until next time, we love you and we appreciate you.
See you guys.
Bye.